Indonesia actually has everything. Yeah, our government during the Mr. Jokowi as president, he built the Palapering satellite for communication. We can communicate from Aceh to Papua just like that. It's easy for us. And each province got 30 government hospital, private hospital, and hundreds of public health centers. So we got everything. But this is important. We are fragmented, not well organized, and not well trained. That's our problem. The police fire department and the ambulance service, called disaster management in the BPD, have their own disaster plans. So the vertical control in the police, fire brigade, and everything, the vertical control is good, but there is no horizontal control. They work by themselves. That's our problem. Disaster plan should be developed together by the hospital, not the hospital, develop disaster plan according to the CARS, Committee on the Hospital Accreditation. That's not enough. So we should make a disaster plan together between hospital, security, rescue, ambulance services, and the national BPD. That's the local disaster management agency. And we should exercise together regularly. We don't exercise, not even regularly. So that's why we are always respond. Okay, next slide, please. Saya buat slide yang bahasa Indonesia buat kalian, juga Word dalam bahasa Indonesia buat kalian ya. Jadi kalau ada bertanya, silakan bertanya ya. Oke. But Indonesia practically has no emergency medical service. It's not developed yet. We, the 118, we tried to do that up to December 2006. We did it, and our response time was 20 minutes. But it was destroyed by the fact the political party completely destroyed. So we got to start over again, and that's difficult. And there's no standardization of emergency ambulance. And ambulance are mostly the load and go type. You see ambulance going very fast with sirens and everything. That's the load and go type. They just load and go. And they violate traffic regulation, red traffic light. What happens? Accident, crash, and people killed. The patient was killed, and even the personnel of the ambulance was also killed. That's what happens now. I got a lot of slides of that accidents. Next slide, please. The 118 Emergency Ambulance Service Foundation, ours. We do the stay and play type of ambulance. We have all life-saving equipment and drugs with us, and our paramedics are well trained. I know they are well trained because I trained them myself. Okay? So we stabilize the patient on site because I told them, look, God gave us brains. God gave us brains, and our panca indera, mata, Dengan mata kita bisa lihat lukanya apa. And then we have the hearing, auscultation, perabaan, percussion. Kita bisa mendiagnosa langsung di tempat tanpa X-ray, tanpa apa-apa. Karena semua laboratorium dan X-ray 80% tidak ada gunanya pada di tempat. Ya. Dan juga kita penciuman. Jadi kalau kita dapat pasien mencium bau kencing, bau feses, hampir pasti itu cedera apa namanya? Spinal injury, cedera spinal. Jadi begitu datang gitu, bau kencing, bau feses, udah pasti spinal, dan kita harus memperlakukan pasien itu sebagai cedera spinal, total immobilization, itu supaya tidak lebih jelek. Ya. Jadi kita on site ke tempat kejadian, kita bisa melakukan stabilisasi pasien, dan kalau tidak bisa, maka kita run, kita pergi to a hospital which can care the patient need. Jadi kita bawa ke rumah sakit yang bisa memenuhi kebutuhan pasien. Kenapa? Karena tidak semua rumah sakit kemampuannya sama. Jangan salah bawa ke rumah sakit. Jangan bawa ke rumah sakit yang terdekat. Terutama yang saya selalu mengatakan, kecelakaan, jantung, dan stroke tidak boleh mati. Dan harus bisa diselesaikan dalam 2-3 jam. Jadi kita harus tahu rumah sakit mana yang bisa memenuhi kebutuhan pasien. Dan kita dari ambulans itu kita dapat basic emergency care, suatu kursus baru ya dari WHO, dari American International Red Cross, dan kita tambahkan local content karena terlalu sederhana. Jadi kita sesuaikan dengan kebutuhan Indonesia itu. Dan itu ada 2 jalur. Satu jalur orang awam menjadi paramedik, polisi, dinas kebakaran, petugas supir ambulans, ya, Pol PP, Satpam, segala macam. Kita latih mereka supaya bisa nolong pasien. Jalur kedua itu untuk perawat yang konversi, for nurses which converts from the hospital to the emergency ambulance. It's different. Because even if they are in the ICU, they stay there, everything's okay, they got everything, they got doctors, they got everything. Well, if you are in an emergency ambulance, you are alone. It's gone. And the ambulance rides 50-60 km per hour. Beda perubahan. Jadi kita harus retrain mereka. So we got to retrain them. So when after an then they become nurse paramedics, dan kita bisa tingkat, we can improve them with other courses and things like that, so that they become intensive care nurse paramedic. Jadi mereka, they are well trained, they know the indication, contraindication on complication of drugs, and they are able to medical evacuation of patients from ICU to ICU. Because you take patients from ICU to ICU, when they arrive, the condition must be better or the same condition. And they are also trained in disaster and mass casualty management. Slide berikutnya, next slide please. If you look at the map of Indonesia, it's beautiful, but look, there are places with colored brown, all right, from Sumatera, Jawa, Bali, NTB, NTT, up to Papua and Sulawesi, brown color. That means it's might be earthquake or tsunami, and we have 98 active volcanoes. Yang hijau The green color means that you can have badai, hurricane, yeah, floods, and landslide and everything. So, next slide, please. So if the brown color, that's it. Our problem is the trauma. Head trauma, cervical, vertebral, chest, abdomen, extremities. And if the volcanic asphyxiation and burns, this is our problem. And the green color, hurricane, thunder, flood, landslide, drowning, cardiac arrest, burn. Yeah. So we can do a specific disaster plan for Indonesia. 2 types of disaster plan. Yeah. And life rest is very expensive and difficult to maintain. So when we want to use it, it's already leaking already. So what I always say, plant banana trees. Because banana trees, if you got an accident, you got a broken arm or leg, you can use them as splint. It's the same splint as the SAM splint in the US. It's curved, cold, analgesic, and you got already how to tie it. If it rains, it's an umbrella. If it grows fruit, you make pisang goreng. If it's too much, go to the market, sell it. Then you get more money from it. And you don't have to take care of the banana trees. Just like that. So I always say, in areas which are a lot of flooding, plant banana trees. Next slide, please. So wherever you are, you know already what the hazard is. Just looking at the map. You can make the specific disaster plan and you know what to do. Really, you know what to do. You can train what to do. In rainy season, flooding can be anywhere. That's true. In the brown area or in the green area. Flash flood. So if it's rainy season and the river is not flooded, you go upriver, see whether the river is dammed by logs. Because if it's not dissolved, then you got a flash flood. So yeah, it's easy for us to prevent flash flood. If you can do it. Fire can happen anywhere. Fire can happen anywhere, especially in the city slums. If you are in Jakarta, don't look in the area, the big areas you see, like in Tamrin or Menteng. Look at the slums. They're very, very tight, very crowded, difficult if something happens to them, especially if there is fire. Next slide, please. The brown area, everything that can move, cupboard, monitors. Don't put monitors above the patient. Sometimes you put monitor above the patient. There's an okay, the monitor will fall and kill the patient. Computers, oxygen bottles must be anchored, must be screwed to a structural wall. Jadi kita masih tahu mana dinding struktural. Di sini, oke, dinding struktural yang mana? Nah, kita harus tahu. Skrupnya ke situ. Sehingga kalau gempa tidak akan lepas. Ya. If there is an earthquake, doctors and nurses are not allowed to run. They must hide under the table, under the patient beds, or a strong structural pillar. So when the tremor stops, they can help the patient. Otherwise, if they don't do that, they will die also, and they cannot help the patient. Evacuation, we do only evacuation on the command of the incident commander, the hospital emergency incident command system, or the HOPE, Hospital Preparedness for Emergency and Disaster Corps. You can use ramps, but the ramp should be only 7 degrees, not too steep. Because if it's too steep, the nurses cannot hold the beds. They will be our nurses are small, you see, they cannot hold the bed. And if you don't have ramps, you can use also the stairs. You just put 5 centimeter triplex on the stairs, and the bed can go down along that. So it's easy to do that. And our concept is we never carry patient. It's heavy. You pull or you push. That's our concept. Don't carry the patient. It's too heavy. Next slide, please. Evacuation. Do not do it in stages. Like in Sinabung, they do it in stages. That's difficult. In Marapi eruption, the patients are in Bethesda Hospital, it's Christian, and in Pantiropi Hospital, that's Catholic. Then came the FPI. Waktu itu masih ada FPI ya. They are not allowed to be there. They must be re-evacuated. And then there's chaos. It's not easy to evacuate patient. Chaos. Then in Mount Semeru, the evacuation is too late because the animals and the snakes are coming out already from the jungle. And Mbah Maridan from Merapi said, one day I was waiting there. He came. What are you doing here with ambulances? And we are waiting for Merapi to erupt. He said, it's not going to erupt because animals and snakes are not of the jungle yet. You know what happened? It's an earthquake. That's what happened. Why? Because Nyai Roro Kidul is angry. Because that time in DPR, they are talking about making a law against anti-porno aksi, anti-pornography. Nyai Roro Kidul is wearing a kemben. So she must wear a blazer. So she was angry. So she just poof on the ocean floor, then you got the earthquake. This is a joke. Okay. But that's what I think. Okay. And they evacuate from Bethesda and Pantira just because of religious reason. I think religion doesn't mean anything for me. Because since I was in the SMP, I was already in the asrama. So I got everybody, all suku or agama, so for me, agama, suku, nothing. Then I was in Prague. I was also in a dormitory. Then there's all kind of bangsa ya, suku, agama, segala macam. For me, it's nothing. It's the same thing. Because we all believe in God. So, no problem at all. And in Semeru mountain, when it erupted, the evacuation was too late. The animals and snakes are already out of the jungle. but they didn't evacuate. So that's why it's too late. That's why there are so many casualties there. And Lumajang Hospital has no disaster plan. They don't know what to do. Suddenly they got so many patients, so they don't know what to do. And there is no command and control. Next slide, please. What we learned from the Merapi eruption, Anak Krakatau, from the 101 disaster we managed to help. The last one is the Anak Krakatau eruption. Yeah. When animals does not come out in the mountain of the jungle, open will not erupt. Like different hot lava from villages. They did it because they think it's going to be to this side, but it comes to this Sleman side. That's why it's got so many casualties. And don't build shelters, because when you are in a shelter, the temperature goes up to 1,000 degrees heat. Yeah. And survivors need coordination between security, rescue, ambulance, and emergency department. So if you got a disaster, the question is how to change from chaos to order. That's the thing. Change from chaos. So it's order in chaos. So
Excuse me,
to do
Prof.
that, you got a management support and medical support. And BNPB should have a manager for a disaster. Next slide, please.
5 minutes
Sebentar
more.
lagi, Bu.
Siap.
Evacuate to save this place. People can camp in one state. Evacuate survivors, do not forget the local culture. Culture in Jawa or in the eastern part of Indonesia is different. It's always the cattle. You cannot evacuate the patient if you don't take the cattle with them. Injury as must be burn, fractures, spinal injuries, open calcification. Next slide, please. Disaster medical teams must have what the Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. So in the 101 disaster we have, we always have medical equipment and drug with reserves. Always 2 generators, minimum 2 water purifier, because you cannot drink water, and 2 oxygen compactor, because we cannot find the oxygen bottle, or the factory for the oxygen is collapsed. Yeah. In war and disaster, normally we send surgeon, a vascular surgeon. Generally to keep the patient alive, vascular surgeon, limb rescue, limb repair, and amputation. In Indonesia, we don't have enough vascular surgeons, so we now train general surgeon in vascular surgery. Next slide, please. Management of disaster. Yeah. Number 1, we must do surveillance. Satellite photos, plane, helicopter, drone, to know how large the area, how bad it is. The access, are the roads okay? Are the bridges okay? Is there a landslide? How about the airport? How about the harbor? So we know how to do it. And most important is to do the triage and do not export disease or get infected. For example, COVID-19, like in Mamuju. They go there, they import COVID-19 to Mamuju. Okay. Volunteers must be trained and certified. Otherwise, they will die. Each province must have a disaster plan exercise together regularly. Next slide, please. Management support, it's command and control. That to make sure that the medical support team is safe. Enough logistics. Food and water, most important. Patient transport, medical evacuation, where to take the patient. Surge capacity of a hospital. I always say, third capacity hospital is a musola or a capella, because anybody who is involved in disaster will always pray to God. And disaster plan, we must exercise together regularly. We never do that. Next slide, please. For example, this, okay. So management support, medical support, and dispatch. Dispatch the right patient to the right hospital by the right ambulance at the right time. So we always take the right patient to the wrong hospital by the wrong ambulance at the wrong time, so patient died. Day-to-day emergency or in disaster. Next slide, please. Medical support, general surgeon, anesthesiologist, obgyn, pediatric, internal medicine, emergency room must have 3 rooms. Yeah. Room number 1 for true emergency only. Number 2, isolation area. And the Quran and Hadith Nabi already written isolation. So we must have isolation area. And the search capacity of the musola and capella, the most easy thing. Next slide, please. Teams to a disaster plan. There are 4 phases. The first phases are general surgery, rescue, search, dogs, communication to keep the patient alive. Phase 2, stabilization in the collection area. And phase 3, the full team. So we send teams to Turkey, but I think it's the wrong team in the wrong time. So there's not much to do for them. And phase 3 is the full team. And phase 4, reconstruction and microeconomy. Now what we do is give the patient, the survivors 50 million rupiah. Dan di Indonesia kalau laki-laki dikasih 50 juta dia kawin lagi. Ya. Jadi the banks must be active, guide the people, the survivor, how to develop their economy so they can come to the level of economy before the disaster. Next slide, please. Field hospital, when we send up to hospital, if there is structural damage, number of patients too many. But if there is no structural damage, you don't need a field hospital. There's a checklist from Hope course. Takes 5 minutes to decide whether the hospital is safe or not. Next slide, please. Triage, you got 5 primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, and quaternary triage. Just recheck everything. So primary triage in the dangerous area, you do the nets rescue and rescue sieve. And then secondary is collection area. Yeah. Tertiary in the emergency room. Quaternary in the OR or ICU or the ward. And after that, we check again whether there's something wrong or not. Next slide, please. Disaster mass casualties use this red, yellow, green, black issues to the weather. And colors on the floor is for mass casualty. Sometimes is salah pengertian ya. Garis-garis yang berwarna di lantai itu. Salah pengertian. Next slide, please. Start triage is very good, but it takes 1 minute per patient. It takes time. So what I do, I just shout. Who wants to be helped earlier? Follow me. Who follows me are the yellow and green. They will follow. And I take them to the musola and treat the minor injuries, and they will pray to God. Those who stay are the red through emergency airway boosting circulation or the red. Next slide, please. Why is Kanjuruhan chaos? It's a big question. Number, no preparedness. The rule, if there is 100,000 people gathering, we must have 100 first responders, security, rescue, paramedics, doctor, who had trained together, so they know what to do. There will only security, but the security is for right control. That's why there are so many problems there. No collection area, no dispatch, misunderstanding of triage, surge capacity, ER must have 3 doors, handover of triage must be outside the emergency room. Next slide, please. And why is the Cianjur earthquake not coordinated? West Java has everything, Palaparing, hospital. So the hub and spoke system is not developed yet. So as West Java is the hub, is the Hasan Sadikin Hospital, and was the spoke of all the other hospitals. Day to day is okay. For disasters is okay. So for Cianjur, Hasan Sadikin can arrive to Cianjur in 2 hours. Maybe Sukabumi, Bogor, and Jakarta can get there in 2 hours. Yeah. So there is no need for people from Makassar or Jogja to come. No need at all. Yeah. Cianjur has no disaster plan, while Cianjur is in the brown zone. And there's a Mount Gede, which is still active. It can explode anytime. Yeah. Preparedness, like tells most, be prepared, because there will be another earthquake, another volcano eruption, and happen in Garut and Sukabumi and Semeru. Next slide, please. This is the agreement between the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons, the College of Surgeons of Indonesia, wound care in disaster situation for GPs and nurses. Checklist, they can do this, and when they must consult. Next slide, please. This is the maggots. In Aceh, we are short of personnel, so there are many patients with maggots. So the Australian said, "Oh, maggots." I said, "Okay, keep cool. Come back in 3 days." So I put a plastic sheet and 4 tapes in 4 areas and give oxygen to them. The maggots are better than surgeons in debris demam. Look at this picture and look at that. So clean. And if you eat them, it's high protein. Yeah. All we got to do is do a skin graft. That's it. And don't forget to give antibiotics, anti-tetanus. That's it. Next slide. I think that's all I can.
Okay, give applause to Prof. Aryono. And thank you so much to Prof. Aryono. Please have a seat again, please. Thank you, Prof. Okay, Prof. Aryono. And now the last but not least, we have the third presenters. The third presenter is Mr. Jorge Salamanca Rubio. She is a postgraduate business and administration management and program and public policies evaluation master, humanitarian aid expert. He has developed his humanitarian work for more than 23 years in several contexts and countries, especially Latin American, Caribbean, European, Africa, and Middle East. He was the former team leader of Spanish cooperation Emergency Medical Team Type 2, and the name is START, and responsible for Operation Emergency Response Deployment, including EMTCC support member deployment since July 2018, and work for WHO or WHO headquarters in Geneva under the emergency medical team and classification process. And George also coordinate with Dr. Victoria Fornado under Nutrition and Food Insecurity module in the Master of Global Health and the Master of Clinical Research, International Health Track in Barcelona, ES Global, and is associated teacher for the program and public policies evaluation master for the Complutense University in Madrid. Please welcome to Mr. Jorge. This floor is yours. Please give applause to Mr. Jorge.
Thank you very much to the university, the Republic Indonesia Defense University, to his rector, Dr. Amaruli Aptaban. Thank you very much. Dearest Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Yadiana, thank you very much for inviting me, and all the committee who has organized this session. My fellow speaker, Dr. Angus and Professor Ariono, thank you very much for your approach and your inspiring presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, dear cadets, good morning. I'm going to introduce you the Emergency Medical Team Initiative. I'm very pleased to hear first the BNPB presentation and the disaster risk reduction approach and the context in Indonesia, because our job is slightly connected to this. And I'm very pleased also to hear Professor Ariono and all his presentation about the chaos during the emergency and how important it is to be prepared in advance. This is exactly one of the straight points of the Emergency Medical Team Initiative. During this week, we are conducting downstairs the first team member induction course in Indonesia, because RIDO will become, with the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Health of Indonesia and WHO, the regional training hub for Southeast Asia. So we are very pleased to conduct this training. Now, today has started the trainer of trainer with the first promotion of these participants who will be part of our network in Indonesia and in the region to be part of the Emergency Medical Team Initiative in the country. Slide, please. I always want to start with this picture. Please, next slide. This is our origin. 2010. Half of the country was affected by the earthquake. Half of the country, more than 7 million people. 350,000 deaths. I repeat the number because it's 350,000. Huge. Look this number. 38,000 people. 38,000 people died because they don't have access to health after the earthquake. That was the origin. More than 400 teams that arrived to the country to help, but disorganized, without the structure, without the coordination. That was the kickoff of the emergency medical team. 1 year later, we met in Cuba, in La Habana, just to say, look, we can do it better. The WHO and the EMT community, the health community around the world, needs to do the things better. Then during the last decade, we have 3 major issues. The earthquake in 2010, Aceh, tsunami, and of course, Haiyan in the Philippines. 3 major hazards that Dr. Angus has explained to us how important it is to be prepared, how important it is to be resilient and follow all this Sendai framework. Next slide, please. then we decide to create the EMT initiative. The EMT initiative is a group of people, professional, providing direct clinical care to population affected by disasters, outbreaks, and emergencies. Initially, we start only with the natural hazards, the natural disaster. I remember Haiti, I remember also Aceh and Haiyan. But then arrives Ebola, the Ebola outbreak that changed our mind and our paradigm, because it was important to respond. And all the health emergency, blast, burns that we have suffered in Lebanon, for example, last year. Or, for example, as the professor said, how difficult it is to enter in a slum dog when there is a fire. That's part of our duty, because EMTs are not international, or is national, international, all the levels, provincial level, districtal level, and of course, if it's necessary, regional support and international support. Next slide, please. Slide, please. Thank you. Those are the 6 objectives of the EMT initiative. From the top, starting about the strength and prepare and train. Professor mentioned how important it is to be certified, how important it is to have people correctly identified, correctly trained, and prepare in advance. Noah doesn't build the ark during the rain. He did it before. So that's the purpose. The clinical standards. You will see our Blue Book is available in our webpage. The Blue Book are the minimum technical standards for the EMTs, which include 27 clinical standards, 13 logistic standards, and 7 water and sanitation and hygiene standards. For those who want to respond to an emergency and make a professional clinical care for our population. In the center, the patients, always the patients in the center. The third pillar is the quality assurance and classification. I will explain how it works for WHO. All those teams that want to be national accredited, or all those teams that want to be international classified, will pass through a process to assure that this quality is in place. Efficiency, timely activation and coordination, EMTs methodology, and the ministries of health of the country, provincial levels, districtal level, must be prepared to coordinate the emergency and to lead the emergency. This is the emergency medical team coordination serve purpose. And we have a system in place around the world to speak the same language. Professor said how important is the right patient, the right hospital, the right ambulance, and the right team. Imagine that in a chaos, and imagine that if arrive a German team, a Filipino team, a North American team, a New Zealand team that doesn't understand Indonesian system. So with this coordination, we speak the same language. The referral patient form is exactly the same for an Indonesian EMT, for a Spanish EMT, or for an Ethiopian EMT. So we train the ministries of health, we train the teams, and we speak the same language. Next slide, please. Why it's important and what are the benefits of the EMT initiative? First, for the patient, and for the solidarity and confidence building for all the network and all the provinces. How important is have international and national teams together working in the same way. National teams are the first responder always. And in our new strategy, 2030, national capacity building, and this training center that start his pathway here in Indonesia, in Ridho University, hosted by the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Health, and WHO, is exactly what is working. Reinforce this national and international capacity under the same protocols. And then delivering the benefits of a standardized and flexible system capable to adapt to no matter what type of emergency. Next slide, please. The benefits for the national capacity building align using the national protocols. We want to tell that in our new strategy, there are 2 magic words: adopt and adapt. We adopt the strategy, but we adapt to the local context. Enhance capacity for surveillance and response. Dr. Angus also mentioned during his great presentation how important is information management and have right information in the right moment. Integrated into national search planning, as the Professor Ariono mentioned, how important is have this structure, national search capacity to be reinforced with regional search capacity and international if the emergency is really big. Also, ensure that the EMTs are predictable. That means that if a Ministry of Health activate an EMT, understand perfectly the level of clinical care that each type provide and activate according to the needs of the country. And finally, no individuals. We don't want tourism, humanitarian tourism. We don't want backpackers that arrive. Where is your equipment? I don't know. Where is your insurance? I don't know. Are you a real doctor? Where is your title? Where is your license? We are trying to certify the quality of the teams nationally and internationally to be prepared. Next slide, please. The 5 objectives, again, to support national search capacity. And we always talk in this national search capacity about a very important concept, which is the 4S. This is our Blue Book. The Blue Book are the minimum standards. You can download it from our webpage. And as I mentioned before, it's a compendium of 27 clinical standards, 13 logistics, and 6 WASH, which are our effort. This is the second edition. The first edition was published in 2015 after Haiyan, and it was only for outbreaks. Sorry, it was only for natural hazards. It was only for foreign medical teams. That edition include our capacity, our coordination, national teams, and international teams. So this first pillar, support national search capacity, is based in 4S. Next slide, please. The 4S for us, which is capital for all the teams, the space, the physical structure, adequate for clinical care, tents, generator, climate conditions, how important is the ventilation, lesson learned from COVID, staff, well prepared, sufficient, trained, according to the needs, with the profiles identified in each emergency, from surgical to outbreak to control communicable diseases to the basic treatment. Depends the level of clinical care that I will show you in a minute. Therefore, the third S, the supplies. We request to all the teams be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient in international medical teams means that at least you have to arrive to the country with 2 weeks of self-sufficiency of everything: water, sanitation, electricity, oxygen, medicine, consumables. Because if not, we are putting an extra pressure to the system, to the national system, to the host country, to the host province, to the host district, because normally they are under stress after an emergency. So it's impossible for them to support us. We are here to support them. And this is very keen and important element. And the system is during an emergency, during the chaos, we need to be well trained and act efficiently. And only with a good system, protocols, and training, it will be possible. Next slide, please. The next topic is the EMT network. I will show you now how is the situation in Turkey right now. Next slide, please. As the Professor Ariono mentioned, the importance of the different activation, and this is exactly how an EMTCC, how a Ministry of Health organize the response. During the first morning of the earthquake, the Ministry of Health of Turkey activated the EMT initiative via bilateral, with the bilateral relationships between governments, and of course, using WHO EMT network. And then activate only for type 2 and type 3. That means that the teams activated has surgical capacity and inpatient capacity, ICU and specialty. No EMT type 1. Type 1 means, and I will explain in a minute, those teams to have ambulatory treatment because they activate the national capacity. So the national capacity all over the provinces were supported by the national forces and the rapid response teams, and the EMTs arrived just to reinforce this surge capacity. This is how we imagine the future in all the countries. A collaborative work between national capacities and the international capacities in case of a major event. even also for those minor events that support or needs our support. This is how you can imagine a challenge in terms of communication, a challenge in terms of coordination, and this is the picture now of our system. 29 final total number has arrived until 52, and yesterday it was 18 already working in the earthquake response for at least 2 months, 2 to 3 months response average for all the EMT deployed in Turkey right now. Next slide, please. Standard setting, the blue book, how important is speak the same language. Around the world, we have different commissions that we call technical working groups that has been working very hard in the last 6-7 years to set the standards for emergency medical teams. Now we have in place also several technical working groups that define the technical guidance and minimum standard. Next slide, please. I will show you in a minute part of the result of this work. This is the different levels of the EMTs, from type 1 mobile to specialized care teams. You can see on the left side of the screen, less complex capacity, mobile, agile, to be ready to deploy as soon as possible. A team, type 1 fixed and mobile, they have ambulatory treatment, basic stabilization and referral. And the treatment of the public health, the normal health that has been interrupted for an emergency. It's not just to treat the trauma wave, that of course is really important and really keen to be treated in the first week. After this week, then the people who has been suffering other diseases, chronic diseases, pregnant women, children, still have access to the health. So mobile clinics, mobile EMTs have the capacity to arrive to the communities, base of operations, and capacity to mobilize the clinical care to the communities. The type 1 fix, they receive the patient on their facilities, open daily hours, again, basic treatment, basic emergency clinical care, also including minor surgery procedures. And then they have the capacity to treat at least 100 patients per day, outpatient. And of course, they have the capacity also for basic obstetric care, and then special protocols in case will be needed, night shift observation. The type 2 include and make the biggest step, including surgical capacity, surgical triage, and 20 beds of inpatient. The type 3 is the referral and include 2 operational tables, 40 beds, ICU capacity, and then the specialties that are not included in the other teams. And we are building our flexibility with the special clinical cares, the specialized care teams, specialized cells, which can be from rehabilitation, newborn, maternal, child care. We have also burn, spinal cord. We are working very hard in this highly infectious disease, which will include cholera, Ebola, and COVID. And then we are working also in the surgical, last week start the surgical specialized care team working group discussions to define in the future what should be the guidelines and minimum standard for surgical specialized care teams. Next slide, please. So this is more or less the summary of the levels I just mentioned before, that include the mobile capacity with multiple locations until the level 3, which is the referral of complex referral system of our EMTs. Next slide, please. And this is the compendium. Based on these 2 books here, you can see the blue book and the red book. What are the main documents for us? The red book is an effort also made for complex context and conflict. We are working very hard also in Yemen, in Syria, and of course in Ukraine, when the EMT approach needs a specific adaptation to conflict and complex context. This is the red book in close collaboration with our colleagues of the ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, and our colleagues of MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières. The blue book, as I mentioned, start or make the global framework of our clinical, logistic, and WASH standard, as well as our core standards that will include a huge component in human resources and the guiding principles that complement the humanitarian principles from the clinical perspective. And then we have the old version, the management of injuries made with our ICRC colleagues in 2016, as well as the rehabilitation guidelines, the mother and child, and then this is the purple one. You can see all these documents are available in our webpage if you are interested to download it. And then the community facilities. That was a real huge effort during the first 3 months of COVID pandemic to adapt the existing facilities and transform these existing facilities, big warehouse, football pitch, basketball pitch, into health facilities for mild, moderate, and acute patients, COVID patients during the pandemic, using the EMT methodology, using our experience in mobile clinics. Then upcoming highly infectious disease, the medevac pre-hospital care is really close to be published, as well as the spinal cord injuries, burn, and as I mentioned before, surgical, mental health, and other specialized care team are coming in the following years. That's our plan. Next slide, please. The global classification, how we will be prepared for the future, how will we speak in the language together. We have a system in place, next slide, please, that include 8 steps. Since the team expressed their interest to participate until they are formal, classified, and international registered. It's a 5-year system. So that means that every 5 years, a team who has been classified need to reclassify again. I know that you have here in Indonesia, user team, search and rescue, classified, certified by INSARAG. And this is a system, similar system for the emergency medical team. But it's not WHO who classify the EMTs. It's a peer review system. That means that other EMTs help during the mentorship process. The first thing that the EMT has to do is the self-assessment, analyze their protocols, equipment, staff versus the Blue Book, and identify potential gaps and identify potential elements to be improved. We assign a mentor, a mentorship process that helps them to adapt equipment, staff, protocols, all the elements that should be addressed and implemented to be prepared. Then we conduct a pre-verification visit to be sure that everything is in place, and very formal moment. Next week, we will conduct the verification visit in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, to our colleagues of Mercy Malaysia. It's a big NGO in Malaysia, who will be classified, hopefully, as EMT Type 1 fixed. That means that other members of the community, people from Australia, people from Korea, and people from Thailand will be in Kuala Lumpur next week to check that Mercy Malaysia is or not according to the Blue Book and the minimum standard. And then there is an international registration for the Ministries of Health. When Turkey has activated, he has chosen from a selected group of teams who has been already classified or are under the classification process, and they understand that those teams has all the equipment, protocols, procedures. They don't have to guess if the medical doctor, nurses have the license. We did during the process. They don't have to check if they have enough clinical protocols. We did in advance. We prepared in advance. We have 2 pillars, one in the preparedness phase and one in the response phase. So this is the preparedness phase. And every 5 years should be reclassified again. Now during Turkey deployment, Italy, Spain, and Japan has been reclassified, received the reclassification visit during the deployment. Next slide, please. This is the situation around the world. We have now currently 37 international classified teams and 89 in the pipeline under classification. And look, this is a group of NGOs, civil and military. We will also we'll work this topic here in the Indonesian training hub because we have also military EMTs classified, and under classification, we have NGOs, government, not only regional, central governments, we have also regional government interested in the process. And then we start the panel of extension of our pool to increase the pool of mentors that we hopefully will conduct in the future here in Indonesia. Also, the mentor workshop to increase the mentor pool of the region of Southeast Asia and probably Western Pacific area. And this is more or less the photo Euro and Western Pacific and America, and America Regional Office, Western Pacific Regional Office, European Regional Office, have practically most of the EMTs in the world, followed by Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Afro. We encourage Indonesia in the future to have and be part of one of these teams. Next slide, please. And I'm finishing my presentation also with very important topic, which is the knowledge sharing and continuous learning. Learn, change, lesson learned. How important are the lesson learned and the balance we made after an emergency? Please, next slide. We are working very hard. No, sorry, there is missing one. Previous one then. Previous slide. Okay. Thank you very much. I am finishing. How important is be prepared? We are working in a knowledge hub to share all the experience, to adapt all the experience to the regions and to the countries, to train. We are working also to improve our website, the training package that we have started here in Ridho, in the Indonesian training hub, regional training hub for the Southeast Asia region with the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Health. And then we try to emphasize, of course, the national teams are the most important, as my previous fellow speaker has reinforced in their presentation. How important is to be prepared here, and then how important is to ensure that the mechanism, the coordination, the collaboration between all the different bodies during an emergency, not only the health, also be integrated in the national response capacity is how important. The training and simulation center, here we are in one of the first two in the world. The other one is in Ethiopia for Afro region. How important is simulation centers to help our EMTs to be well prepared? How important is the recommendation for optimal care and all the work efforts done by our commissions and working groups for the technical guidelines, the global health hazard capacity with regional and national focus. Dr. Angus remind us how difficult is now the situation and the dramatic increase of natural hazards in the last 10 years, let's say. So we need to be prepared for that. And we renew the focus and the investment in search capacity, national, global, and regional support. I finish here. Thank you very much to the university. Thank you for your.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Jorge. Thank you, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. We have already heard all the presenters. Now we have two sessions for question and answer. First session for my right side and the second session for the left side. So please, all presenters, have a seat in front of us. All the question is about 20 minutes to 3 presenters for 6 questions. Okay, please, Prof. Aryono, Dr. Bagus, and Mr. Jorge. Okay, the first session for my right side, please stand up or rise. Raise hand, please. Okay, cadets. Or random, it's up to you. Please, okay. 1, 2, we have 3 questioners. 3. Okay, first from you, sir. Okay. Name and cohort, please. Okay, already.
Okay. Permission. Excuse me, Professor. Excuse me, Doctor. Excuse me. So let me introduce myself. My name is Surgeon Major Cadet Faranistian. I'm currently at sixth semester of my third year medical student. And let me ask a question for me about disaster management.
Okay, to Dr. Bagus or Prof. Aryono?
Prof. Aryono.
Okay.
So based on some literature I've read, disaster management is not only related to natural disasters, but in some cases, some disaster may occur due to chemical substance, biological agents, or radiologic threat agents, or even nuclear disaster, or we must call it cyber. Yes. Regarding this matter, Professor, how is the cyber disaster management system in Indonesia? And how good is cyber disaster preparedness in Indonesia? If someday there is a cyber disaster happen, and what things must be considered in handling cyber disaster that it does not cause further more damage? That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, cadets. You got the question, sir? Oh, she want to ask about how to protect, how to explore the medicated if we have a phase of disaster at chemical, biological, explosive. This is from earthquake. Everything is from earthquake, but if we face of disaster from chemical disease, biological disease, so how to protect? Because we don't want have so many victims in that disaster. Jadi bagaimana kalau disaster itu bukan alamiah, tapi chemical.
Well, thank you. Ini terus terang pertama kali saya bicara ada yang mau tanya. Hebat.
Tepuk tangan dulu dong. Thank you, Prof.
Jadi di buku saya tentang safe community, yang pertama tuh tidak mungkin kita bisa menanggulangi bencana kalau sehari-hari kita buruk. Nomor satu itu, sehari-hari harus baik. Kalau sehari-hari baik, apapun yang terjadi, oke. Nah, kalau umpamanya, ya kan bisa biological, bisa apa namanya, chemical, bisa gas ya. Itu si paramedik udah tahu. Kalau umpamanya gas, umpamanya gitu ya, seperti di Jepang, itu kalau dia jalan, dia lihat kok ada tikus mati, ada burung mati, ada segala macam. Saya instruksinya adalah get out, stay out, and call for help. Dan semua ditutup. Jangan turun, ada apa ya? Ikut mati itu. Nah, kalau biological, nah ini kalau Anda mesti belajar. Sultan Agung, belajar nggak sejarah Sultan Agung? Sultan Agung itu orang pertama yang melakukan biological warfare. Sultan Agung itu bukan main sejarahnya tuh. Filmnya juga ada. Itu jadi Anda pelajari itu tuh. Biological. Jadi bagaimana dampaknya tuh biological warfare tuh. Dan sekarang kan jadi pertanyaan kan COVID-19 ini maksudnya tujuannya biological warfare yang gagal. Nggak tahu. Saling tuding Cina sama Amerika kan saling tuding. Ya, dan dibilang Cina dijual ke pasar yang bekas di percobaan. Tapi ternyata yang sakit pertama tuh tentara Amerika yang pergi ke Cina untuk pertandingan. Jadi nggak tahu yang mana biological. Jangan-jangan COVID ini juga tujuannya biological tapi gagal. Karena terus terang Amerika sudah siap, dia semua udah bikin vaksin-vaksin. Tapi ternyata si COVID ini jago, dibikin vaksin ini, dibikin apa namanya varian-variannya. Saya sendiri sudah 4 kali disuntik untuk COVID, vaksin COVID. Tapi saya ketularan XBB, tularnya di kapal terbang. Jadi saya lagi di kapal terbang, kan dibagi makan, lapar kan, buka masker, semua makan. Udah, saya pasang lagi, it's too late. Besoknya langsung leher sakit, panas, lemes. Tapi karena sudah divaksin ya 3 hari saya sakitnya. Jadi itu aja tentang biological. Tapi biological warfare Anda harus bangga. Yang pertama adalah Sultan Agung. Anda masih baca tuh sejarahnya tuh. Bukan main bagaimana dia diancam oleh VOC, nggak mau ngalah, tapi dia bikin biological warfare. Itu Indonesia yang pertama. Oke? Ada yang jelas?
Boleh.
Izin menambahkan, kalau kita ngomong chemical, biological, radiation, nuclear, and explosive device. Terus terang aja di Indonesia ini masih terbatas sekali ya kemampuan kita untuk mulai dari preparedness ataupun respon untuk kegiatan atau akibat dari cyber ini. Sebagai contoh, untuk chemical aja, hazardous material di Cilegon itu ada hampir 100 pabrik ya untuk bahan-bahan kimia. Itu kalau ada yang bocor, bagaimana gitu? Kita kemarin latihan di Cilegon, tsunami induced leakage hazardous material. Itu tidak mudah. Bagaimana mengarahkan pabrik, protokol pabriknya bagaimana. Kita mengundang tim dari Nubika Seni untuk decontamination for the patient before admitting to the kontaminasi. Jadi ada fasilitas di luar rumah sakit, pasiennya harus bersih, jauh dari bahan beracun, baru masuk ke UGD. Kalau yang lain-lain sama masih minimal, kita masih jauh ya. Laboratorium kita aja baru BSL level 3 ya. BSL level 3. Padahal kalau seperti ini kita harus BSL level 4. Seperti di World Trade ya, saya sudah ke sana waktu itu ke World Trade Medical Center di Maryland. Jadi banyak pekerjaan. Kalau nuklir masih kecil lagi, kita nggak akan bisa merespon nuklir. Kecil sekali. Explosive device, ya kalau kita perang, biasanya itu dari granat, kemudian bom yang dirakit, itu seperti itu.
Jadi tampaknya memang harus lebih jauh untuk belajar lagi ya Prof ya. Learn about how to protect hazardous about the CBRN ini. About chemical, biological, nuclear, radiological, and explosive. It is very dangerous. So what do you think about that?
For the emergency medical team, also for the first time in this 2021 edition of the Blue Book, we have incorporated one medical technical standard about CBRN. Of course, the level of capacity, remember we are a surge capacity that entered just in the very beginning of the emergency, just to reinforce the existing capacity. We just reinforce exactly that. And then the level 1 is a basic treatment, the capacity to diagnosis and immediately refer to the national structures. For the level 2 and the level 3 will be start the treatment if it's possible, and also the content measures in order to refer safely the patient to the further structure. Our role in the CBRN for the first time in this 2021 edition is to be aware to identify the signs and diagnosis of CBRN symptoms and possibilities, and then immediately refer to the correct area, initiate the treatment in level 2 and level 3 with the capacity ICU and isolation, and of course, surgical capacity if it's needed. But this is basic, the level of approach of the EMT in severe.
Thank you, Mr. Jorge, because this is very a few disaster. I think okay. Next, for the second questioners. Okay, yes, sir. Please give applause for the first questioners.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Professor, and good morning, Doctor. So let me introduce myself. My name is Rifki Karis Baskara. I'm from Surabaya, and I'm Sergeant Major from University of Defense Indonesia. So in here, we have an organization at Defense University called Medical Aid Team. Our duty is more similar like AMT. And my question is, it's for me, Mr. Jorge. It's whether you can provide us with any advice on how to improve the organization of our medical aid team and ready to prepare for any duty that has been given to us. For example, like if there is any disaster, how we prepare for the other things, like more like logistic and the other things. So we just made this team just years ago. So maybe we need some advice from Mr. Jorge for the better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And first of all, congratulations for the initiative to create the teams. More and more is needed the capacity at national level, at all levels, civilian and military, working collaboratively and working together. During the lectures in our first team member training induction course this week, we have also learned the structure of the response in Indonesia, hosted and led by national authorities, and the disaster agency, which is the leader during an emergency. My first advice and my first recommendation is integrated according to the national capacity and according to the national structure. That's the most important. Be well coordinated and well prepared, and leave the leaders take the decisions in case of an emergency. From the technical perspective, I invite you to download the Blue Book, and then you will find these 27 clinical standards. The 27 clinical standards depends the level of clinical care you want to provide, from type 1, type 2, type 3. If we include or not surgical procedure, type 1 arrives until the minor surgery and basic obstetric care and basic emergency care. It's a level that permits this basic stabilization of referral of patients for further capacities. If you are planning a very big type 2 and type 3, congratulations also, that's deserve heaviest logistics in terms of the capacity, because you have 20 patients, you have one surgical theater, and then you need to be prepared for that in different levels. Not only as international, we request the self-sufficiency. You need to arrive to the deployment area, even if it's a national deployment, from here to one of the districts affected by the emergency, with all necessary equipment to perform clinical care with quality. And that's include drugs, consumables, the electricity, of course, all the basic equipment and advanced equipment of electromedicine. Of course, you need all the operational support for sanitation, wash, and you will find all that information in our Blue Book. And my third recommendation always is training and be prepared. Don't do it during the emergency. Be ready in advance is a key. The preparedness phase is basic, and sometimes we miss this part. We want to be ready to deploy, we want to be in action, but the preparedness phase during peace times as much important as the capacity of response. Again, following always the national capacity. Our idea also in Indonesia and Southeast Asia with the Ministry of Health and the national authorities for emergency response is create the structure and share with them the EMT methodology just as a part of a new piece of the puzzle that exists internationally for emergency coordination. Here, the Ministry of Health has also the emergency EOC, is Emergency Operations Center, hosted by the Indonesian Ministry of Health, that integrated into the cluster system of BMPMB, that is the leader agency during an emergency. So again, register with them, organize with them, and work close collaborative with them to be well activated during an emergency phase. Thank you.
Please.
Just as a quick one. If you send medical 18 or EMT version from your side, you have to report to the command post in this area or ICS. And they have, we call it health cluster. And then the coordinator of health cluster will determine what kind of help or support needed for certain area. And they will ask you how many doctors you have, how many nurses you have, what kind of capabilities you are able to perform, and what kind of medical supplies you have, how long you will stay in the impacted area. So reporting to the command post is very important because they have a cluster system. So they have to determine which one to go. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jorge and Dr. Bagus. So, Cadet, we have already induction about the EMT course this week, and this is 5 days. Yeah, 5 days we have moved, and the next day, tomorrow is the last day. So we have already induction by Prof. Yahdiana, who induction. To influence the what is EMT. So we have already designed it to protect our disaster, because Indonesia is so many disaster, earthquake, flood, and etc. So maybe next generation, maybe the cadets can follow, can follow the course next time. Thank you. And next, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great applause to Mr. Questioners, the second Mr. Questioners. Okay, the last for the right side, please. Yeah, Miss.
Good morning.
Good
Let me
morning.
introduce myself. My name is Dinda Ferisda from Sergeant Cadet from Indonesia Defense University. I want to ask to Dr. Bagus Cahyono, as explained by doctor, that the paradigm of regarding disaster management has shifted to a mitigation paradigm, or from event-based to risk-based. What I want to ask, how does the change in the paradigm of disaster management affect the disaster event? Thank you.
Okay, this is from Prof. Aryono. Dr. Bagus. Okay, sorry, Dr. Bagus. Dr. Bagus. Okay, please. The question: if we change about the mitigation, part of mitigation, can change a part of mitigation? Tadi yang di slide berapa, Dek?
From event-based to risk-based.
Oh,
From
event-based to third.
Risk-based.
Okay, from the event dari event based ke
risk-based.
risk based.
Oh, okay.
Ke risk based.
Oh yeah, there's the slide that I have from the emergency disaster and risk management. Yeah. Okay. In the past, because we focus on response, it's when we respond to any event or occurrence during disaster. It means we focus on waiting for disaster to happen. If the disaster occurs, we respond. But we have to change our paradigm. We have to prevent and mitigate far beyond disaster happen. Like a prevention in the medical or health domain, we not focus on the treatment, but we focus how to prevent the disease to occur. If we respond waiting disaster to occur, will be too late. So that's why we, from the event-based, move to risk-based, focus to risk, how to reduce the risk for disaster. Not all risk can be demolished or can be prevented, but at least minimize the risk, not extinguish all the risk, but minimize the risk. Same as the health domain. Prevention comes first and then treatment. I think this one.
Yeah, like clinical medicine also, we more protect, more prevent than curative. So maybe at the disaster too. So the event, when the event came, it's too late, yes sir, yeah. So we prevent how the event with the sign maybe ya. Dari Prof. Aryono with the sign, kalau ada there is a snake or maybe the bird came dead. And that body, so maybe we think, oh, there is something wrong in this area, maybe. Is that right, sir? Okay. Bisa dimengerti ya? Okay.
Ya, terima kasih.
Thank you. Give applause to the last for the right side. Okay, the second session. The second session, we have 3 more questioners. Okay, please from the left side. Raise hand, please. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. From over there, the women plus. Women first, okay.
Good morning. My name is, let me introduce myself. My name is Corporal Cadet Pintauli Golda from Military Medicine Student, Indonesian Defense University. I want to ask a question for Mr. George Salamanca. Some underdeveloping countries have a high burden of disease that needs emergency medical systems. At the same time, emergency care in such countries is suboptimal. What is the role of the World Health Organizations in helping underdeveloping countries meet the minimum EMT standards? Thank you.
How many time we have? This is a very interesting question. No, just joking. Thank you very much for your question. Is basically one of the challenge. Most of the teams that you have seen classified came from Europe, Western Pacific, but also for not, I don't want to say underdeveloped, middle level incomes or low incomes countries who has big challenges in their own health system are trying to develop also the EMT capacity. When we are trying to set the standards, it's not just to create an extra problem or to raise too much the standard. Is to arrive together to a quality system that permits, with our center, with our patients in the center, provide quality clinical care to the patient. That's the big objective, the big goal of us for national and international. How we do it in countries who are facing difficulties or challenges in their own health system, we are reinforcing this search capacity. We are searching also for donors who can support the basic equipment, the training, the support of this health system. We are also making some advocacy in the ministries of health, in the governments, to increase the budget allocated for health. That is quite important. And then, as we are just discussing, we are trying to integrate this search capacity of the EMT and the EMT standards into also other teams. We were talking about Safe Hospital, which is a big program of WHO in the countries, the Safe Program Hospital. We try to be more resilient or make more resilient our hospital, and it's a program all over the world. We are working also with the preventive medicine colleagues to complete their support to the population during an emergency. And we encourage these teams to develop also their national protocols and national standards. When we were talking about technical standard of oxygen, for example, a team who has to deploy to an emergency should provide oxygen to the patients. The difference between the national teams and the international team is how they provide oxygen. If I had to fly to Jakarta, probably I can't bring with me in the plane bottles. I need oxygen concentrators. But if you are a national team and you have the support of the network that Dr. Bangos has explained, probably the health cluster can provide for you the oxygen in place and then help you. You need oxygen. The answer is yes. The big difference is how you do it. And we are finding really interesting solutions for countries like Ethiopia, who has developed the first emergency medical team, Thailand, who's also the first classified in the region. In 2019 is the first EMT classified. We are also observing that Haiti, that in 2010 was the kickoff with the civil protection authorities and the Ministry of Health, we are setting the first EMT in the country, hosted by the civil protection and supported by the Ministry of Health. And step by step, we are creating this resilience in the countries that Dr. Bagos mentioned in the first lecture. It's our duty also as WHO and EMT community complete and try to reinforce this resilient approach signed in Sendai framework and as part of the overall response and preparedness phase for the emergency. Thank you very much for your question. It has been very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorge. Wow, yeah. Okay, clearly, yeah, clearly, really clearly about the answer. So thank you, Pintauli. Okay, the next question is from the left side also. Okay, the second one, please, cadets. We have also many questions from the room, the watch up room. Maybe we can answer one or two, maybe.
Excuse me, sir. Requesting permission to ask a question. My name is Mas Prakoso. I am Corporal Cadet from the Military Medicine Program Core 3. I would like to ask a question to Prof. Aryono. Previously, I would like to mention about the frequent occurrence of disaster that often have significant impact on society, including health-related impact. Therefore, disaster preparedness and management efforts are necessary. In this regard, not only the health sector is involved in disaster prevention and management. As disaster become more complex, collaboration between the health and non-health sector is increasingly necessary. So collaboration can involve civil society organization, the private sector, local government, and other. My question is how government can encourage the private sector to be more involved in disaster medicine, preparation, and management. And then what incentive or policy can be provided to encourage private sector participation in this effort? Thank you.
Thank you. Ini pertanyaannya bagaimana bagaimana kita bisa mengkondisikan seluruh sektor itu bisa bekerja sama untuk menangani disaster. Terutama siapa? Kita harus memilih komennya dulu ya, Prof ya. Tentunya itu salah satu pertanyaannya.
Pakai bahasa Indonesia aja ya. Jadi gini, di buku saya yang tentang safe community itu ada 10 prinsip penanggulangan bencana. Nomor 1, tidak mungkin kita bisa menangani bencana dengan baik kalau sehari-hari kita buruk. Itu. Dan kita terus terang kita nggak punya sistem dan sistem kita buruk. Anda sekarang mau telepon umpamanya, ada orang kecelakaan di sini umpamanya, kemana Anda mau telepon? Polisi teleponnya 110, pemadam kebakaran 119, ambulans 113, 119, SAR Nasional 115, BNPB 117. Yang mana mau ditelepon? Bingung kan? Padahal Kominfo sudah bilang telepon emergency buat Indonesia adalah 112. Belum jalan. Baru bulan yang lalu Semarang menyatakan Di Semarang kalau minta tolong teleponnya 112. Tapi masih sendiri-sendiri. Belum di satu tempat di BPBD. Ini problemnya di situ. Jadi kan ini problem jadi hari ini. Jadi kita memang harus mengadakan membentuk sistemnya bagaimana masyarakat mudah minta tolong. Nah, kalau udah minta tolong, siapa yang datang? Ambulans. Yang datang yang saya bilang load and go. Nggak ada gunanya. Berbahaya sekali itu. Itu yang ambulans seperti kita nggak banyak. Itu saya juga nggak, ya namanya juga uang nggak bohong ya. Saya pengennya punya 10-20 pos. Repot. Nah ini jadi ini problem. Nah, ini harus kita selesaikan ya, mungkin dengan BNPB nanti kita bisa selesaikan ya Pak ya. Kita atur terus. Karena di undang-undangnya BNPB itu hanya menyatakan tentang bencana ya Pak, tapi sehari-hari tidak ada di situ. Jadi mungkin harus ada perubahan. Sehari-hari harus ada penanggulangan gawat darurat yang baik. Mulai kita harus melatih masyarakat, ya dari SMA mulai kita latih, ya kalau Car Free Day juga harus kita latih, ya terus kemudian polisi, dinas kebakaran juga mesti kita latih, tidak mau karena polantas kita kalau lihat polantas kan, SIM saya ada nggak? Coba kalau polantas dilatih dengan baik. Mungkin ada polantas aman. Mungkin itu bisa terjadi itu. Dan polantas tuh subuh jam 6 saya keluar udah ada di situ polantas. Ganjil genap katanya. Panas matahari, jalan macet, hujan gede, polantas ada. Tengah malam masih ada juga polantas tuh. Jadi ini yang mungkin salah satu yang harus belum satpam ya, di mana-mana ada satpam ya. Itu yang bisa kita latih. Jadi mungkin itu ya. Jadi apa itu sudah menjawab semua atau belum?
Sudah.
Hah?
Polisi.
Apa?
Polisinya bagaimana seharusnya?
Apa polisinya?
Polisinya.
Polisi ya ini polisi yang itu tergantung pada pemerintah ya. Itu. Jadi ya kan
Yang menginisiasi siapa, Prof?
berapa?
Siapa yang wajib menginisiasi sebenarnya?
Jokowi. Kalau Jokowi dibilang A, semuanya A. Udah selesai persoalan. Karena cuma itu doang. Kalau yang lain ngomong ABC, ya bubar aja udah. Jokowi. Udah. Nah, tapi bagaimana kita mau ngomong sama Jokowi? Saya punya pengalaman. Saya tahu harus berbuat apa. Saya punya pengalaman. Saya punya pengetahuan, ilmu, ya. Tapi bagaimana saya bisa ketemu Jokowi? Ngomong. Ini masalahnya itu. Saya nulis surat ke Korlantas, nggak dijawab. Saya ngomong sama para wisata ya, Sandiaga Uno, nulis surat. Kan para wisata. Mestinya para wisata ke sini ada apapun aman dia. Kalau dia aman, rakyat Indonesia pun aman. Jadi kalau memang wisatawan datang, apapun yang terjadi telepon 112. Kasih kertas. Udah selesai. Saya nulis surat ke Sandiaga Uno. Enggak dijawab juga. Jadi ya saya harus ngomong sama Jokowi. Tapi ngomong sama Jokowi gimana? Baru sampai ke pintu gerbang aja udah diusir. Siapa lu katanya? Jadi gimana caranya? Memang problem. Mungkin nanti dengan BPBD ya. Undang-undangnya diperbaiki bahwa sekarang kan undang-undang BPBD itu kan hanya menekankan pada bencana. Mungkin ditambah. Tidak mungkin menanggulangi bencana kalau sehari-hari kita buruk. Itu syarat saya. Kalau itu bisa masuk, mungkin sudah akan berubah. Itu mungkin cukup.
Siap, cukup.
Oke.
Terima kasih, Bro.
Thank you for all participants. And I think he is the last questioners because we have another chance to move. So we would like to say thanks again for all presenters for their information and interesting presentation. So to you, to all audience, okay, give a applause to audience too. Thank you for your active participant. Okay, we will see in next expert lecture. So and before the last what is it? Before the last presentation for this day. So Professor Yahdiana will give us something for three presenter. So please raise Mr. Jorge.
Komentar sedikit ya, Bu.
Siap, siap.
Jadi saya untuk Anda semua, saya terima kasih sekali. Baru sekali ini saya bicara, banyak yang tanya.
Siap. Tepuk tangan lagi dong. Give applause.
Biasa kalau saya bertanya di UI, bahkan PPDS saya ronde, posisi skrotum semuanya. Ya dok, ya dok.
Takut soalnya, Prof. Afraid from Prof. Ya.
Pasti ada yang tanya, oh ini tentara.
Iya.
Pasti ada yang tanya, lu ada Prof.
Siap, siap. Thank you. So many questions from for Prof. Aryono. So he's very proud. He is very proud. Okay. Please, Dr. Bagus, Prof. Aryono, and Mr. Jorge. Yeah, and please, Professor Yahdiana. Give something, never forget ya Prof ya ini. Give something and never forget. Oh di bawah, oke. For Mr. Jorge.
You already delivered excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Get applause to Prof and Mr. Jorge.
Hebat Ibu, hebat sekali Bu.
Prof yang hebat.
Enggak, mereka nggak ada yang posisi skrotum saya.
Terima kasih ya Prof. Itu luar biasa presentasinya.
Ya, tepuk tangan untuk Prof Yahdiana dan Prof Aryono. Thank you untuk Dr. Bagus dan Prof Yahdiana. Okay, give applause to all presentation. Okay, thank you.
all the lecture. Please, you can go back to your seat, and I'll give it back to MC, please. Thank you.
We would like to give our thanks to the Honorable Captain Dr. Lila Irawati Cahya Widuri, Master of Medicine, Anesthesiology Specialist, Consultant of Intensive Care, as the moderator. And we would like to express our gratitude on behalf of all the attendees for the knowledge that has been conveyed by the expert lecturers. Hopefully, it will be useful for the student cadets of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences to carry out their assignments in the future regarding the management of disasters in Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next event will be the singing of the song Bagimu Negeri. You may rise from your seats.
The following event will be a group photo session. To the attendees online, you may activate your cameras, and to the attendees present in the auditorium, you may take your positions.
Acara selanjutnya untuk peserta yang berada di online segera mengaktifkan kameranya, akan dilakukan dokumentasi. Oke, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oke, lagi 1, 2, 3. Untuk salam bela negara. 1, 2, 3. Baik, ya, untuk peserta di Zoom, untuk dokumentasi slide pertama, 1, 2, 3. Slide kedua, 1, 2, 3. Untuk slide ketiga, 1, 2, 3. Slide terakhir, 1, 2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the second series expert lecture of 2023 with the theme of Disaster Management Update.
We have finally gone through the entire series of events together. We'd like to give thanks to the lecturers, organizers, and participants who attend today's event. It is hoped that today's lecture activities will bring benefits and advantages to us all.
We and the entire event committee apologize if there were any intentional or unintentional mistakes that brought inconvenience to the audience during the event. I am Corporal Cadet Dimas Ardi Bramlito and my colleague,
Corporal Cadet Nur Kalisha Yahya.
we wish you a good day.
Wassalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
May peace be upon us all.
Om Santi 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 Om.
Namo Buddhaya.
Greetings of virtue. Salam.
Memperingati Hari Kemerdekaan Republik Indonesia ke-77. Langit Jaka Praditya Wirata.
Children used to run and play. Look at all the mess we made. Guess I never know where it went wrong. Sometimes I feel like all that's sad, 'cause viral then people forget. In this crazy world I don't belong. I see fire burning but I close my eyes. I'd rather deny that. Everything is falling out of place. I see trees ripped from the ground, but nobody makes a sound. I see fire burning, but I'm fighting. I am nobody. Feels so unsure. Didn't we deserve more? The burden that you left is way too heavy for me. Do you ever feel like the world would die out? My anxiety's off the roof, I cry out. We have gone too far, take me back right now. I see fire burning, but I close my eyes. I'd rather deny that. Everything is falling out of place. I see trees ripped from the ground. Nobody makes a sound. I see fire burning, but I'm fine.
Apa? Oh, pakai lagi. Iya nggak sih? Kadet mahasiswa Universitas Pertahanan Negara di bidang kesehatan, sains, dan teknik, serta sebagai komponen cadangan yang disiapkan untuk menghadapi ancaman militer maupun non-militer. Dinamisnya kondisi geopolitik dunia serta kecenderungannya berubah, sifat perangnya semakin asimetris, membuat negara perlu menyiapkan kader intelektual bela negara yang tidak hanya cerdas, namun juga tangguh di lapangan. Selama masa pendidikan, kadet mahasiswa tidak hanya mendapatkan materi kuliah akademik secara teori dan praktik, tetapi juga menerima pembelajaran non-akademik seperti pembinaan fisik dan pelatihan kemampuan militer sebagai bekal untuk berkiprah dalam bidang pertahanan. Selain menempuh pendidikan dasar militer di Akademi Militer Magelang pada masa awal pendidikan, kompetensi militer kadet mahasiswa juga dilatih dalam program Cadet on Military Basic Training atau Combat. Pada pelaksanaan Combat, kadet mahasiswa dilatih menjadi calon prajurit TNI yang tangguh melalui pemberian doktrin-doktrin militer serta pelatihan kemampuan kompetensi militer seperti atletik, renang militer, Humas, lempika, dan menembak. Program Combat juga diselenggarakan sebagai bentuk implementasi peran kadet mahasiswa Unhan RI sebagai kader intelektual bela negara. Pembukaan kegiatan Combat dilaksanakan pada Senin 16 Januari 2023 yang dihadiri oleh seluruh sivitas akademika Unhan RI dan dipimpin langsung Rektor Unhan RI Laksamana Madya TNI Profesor Dr. Insinyur Amarullah Octavian MSc, DESD, ASEAN Engineering selaku Inspektur Upacara, serta Komandan Resimen Kadet Kolonel Marinir Werijon MHan CIQNR CIQAR selaku Komandan Upacara. Dalam amanatnya, Rektor Unhan RI menyampaikan bahwa program kegiatan Combat dirancang untuk memenuhi standar kompetensi kemiliteran kadet Unhan RI sesuai dengan ketentuan dari Mabes TNI.
Pada pagi hari ini kita semua dapat hadir dan menyaksikan upacara pembukaan program Combat 2023. Bahwa program Combat ini dirancang dan dilaksanakan untuk memenuhi standar kompetensi kemiliteran bagi kadet Unhan RI sesuai dengan ketentuan yang telah ditetapkan oleh Mabes TNI. Karena setelah kalian nanti dilantik untuk angkatan yang pertama yaitu tahun 2024, maka kalian akan langsung diterima menjadi perwira TNI. Laksanakan semua tugas dengan sebaik-baiknya. Kewajiban kalian harus diprioritaskan. Penuhi standar, kalau perlu lampaui dari standar.
Upacara pembukaan Combat dimeriahkan oleh pertunjukan display drum band Canka Praditya Wiratama serta defile pasukan dari kadet mahasiswa. Defile terdiri dari 2 batalion yang menampilkan kadet mahasiswa Unhan RI mengenakan seragam PDL latihan, PDL tempur, dan PDL dengan IPP set lengkap.
Penuhi standar, kalau perlu lampaui dari standar.
Combat! dan berkonsentrasi bank ini, yaitu Cangka Praditya Winatama.
Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly anyway, but I keep on We're all searching for that open door. Show me proof that there is something more. I just hope I am okay with the choices I make. Maybe then I'll understand. You said I'd fly away, but my walls have kept me down. Now I'm lost and I'm afraid, and I'm close to hit the ground. You said I'd fly away. You said I'd fly
Luruskan, lurus. Tugas piket akan dilaksanakan dengan penuh rasa tanggung jawab. Laporan selesai.
Laporan saya terima. Piket jaga batuan baru laksanakan tugas dengan maksimal. Kerjakan.
Kerjakan.
Langit fajar mengawali rutinitas kami. Hidup dalam kebersamaan untuk melatih kedisiplinan dan berjuang mewujudkan impian. Untuk memulainya, kami harus menciptakan motivasi dari diri sendiri dan dari hal yang paling kecil. Sebagai penerus semangat juang yang tangguh, penting bagi kami untuk menyiapkan fisik yang prima. Begitu juga dengan kerapihan dan memberi penampilan terbaik. Langkah demi langkah pasti, riuh masa remaja bertransformasi menjadi masa belajar dan berlatih. Dengan bekal arahan dan bimbingan, kami harus menjaga moral dan semangat yang kuat untuk selalu termotivasi menyelesaikan tugas dengan penuh tanggung jawab. Pendidikan bukan sekedar pemahaman, namun lebih dalam mengajarkan arti kehidupan. Kami dituntut untuk mempunyai wawasan yang luas, karena kami sadar bangsa yang besar berada di tangan pemuda yang kritis dan tekun. Di samping itu, karakter dan etika tetap perlu dibina untuk menjadi penerus semangat juang yang gigih. Kami percaya bahwa rezeki harus selalu disyukuri. Rasa syukur itu kami ekspresikan dalam doa yang mengiringi tiap suapan. Tawa dan senyum ramah saling bersahutan menggema di ruangan ini. Suasana hangat dan akrab terasa seperti rumah, seperti keluarga walau tak sedarah.
Oke, sini.
Siap. Kosong.
Ada laporan.
Laporan. Sob, mohon izin, data kebutuhan apa siang hari ini jumlah 304.
Yang 25 ini sudah kau pastikan kelas tambahan, peloton apa dia?
Sob, sudah. Peloton 4 Kompi B.
Untuk data yang saya ini kok bertambah. Tadi pagi kau laporkan 3 personil, sekarang jadi 5 personil. Sudah kau cek?
Sob, kurang tahu Sob. Data tersebut berasal dari ketua kelas harian masing-masing.
Tidak ada jawaban kurang tahu. Sebagai jaga batalan itu, harusnya kau cek betul kondisi personil. Itulah gunanya kita melaksanakan apel di setiap waktu, supaya kau tahu betul kondisi personil seperti apa. Sehingga jika suatu saat dimobilisasi, kita sudah tahu kondisi personilnya seperti apa, siap untuk kita gerakan. Paham ini?
Siap, Om. Tidak akan saya ulangi.
Kamu tidak mau kan kalau mengulang menjadi piket